It's really funny, but whenever I take a picture for my thumbnail and look at it after, I always think to myself, I'm looking more and more like my mother. Hey BookTube, it's Kim at Middle of the Book March. I have a tag today, and I've kind of delayed on this one, mostly because I was trying to figure out when to film which video and which content. However, this I think worked for me because I'm glad that I had a delay on this tag, because this makes the content come out into the public eye, or keeps it in the conversation going on longer. So I'm actually happy about that. This is the Stand with Trans Kids book tag, and it's an original tag by Leo Bancroft, who I love, and I was tagged by Brian at Bookish, and both of their links will be down below. Leo, if you're not aware, has a great channel, and he is a trans guy. He is an advocate for church inclusion. He is an ordained minister like me. That's one of the many reasons why I can relate to a lot of his content, and you know, we've chatted in the comments back and forth about faith and church and that type of thing. And I love that he's working towards inclusion in the Christian community and in churches. There's not enough notice of churches that do include all genders and all sexualities of people, and all humans in general. So it's really good to get that out there, to get all of that knowledge and the awareness out there. So, here's my minuscule commentary. But every human being, no matter which sexuality, gender, color, race, religion, deserves basic health care, whether it's physical health, mental health, sexual health, reproductive health, all of it. We all deserve to have basic, which is a basic human right, to have our medical attention, have our medical needs met with attention. And it's including kids who are looking for healthcare for transitioning. They are looking for mental health support. They are looking for medication management, whatever it is. It simply doesn't matter who the human is, or which they identify with, and what their gender is. We all deserve the same level and the same urgency of healthcare. So, that all said, let's go through the tag. The first question, the first prompt is, tag some fabulous friends who may also want to do this tag, and stand with trans kids. Honestly, so many people have done it already. It's open. Anybody who's watching this video and has a channel, if you haven't done this tag, you are tagged. It may be the lazy way out, but I think the tag has been done quite a bit, so I don't want to repeat myself, and I actually didn't look at that in advance. So, what I might do is I might put the links to some channels that I'll go out and take a look to see who's done it and who hasn't, and I'll link some channels down below, and if you're linked, you're tagged. Number 2, tell us about some books on your TBR pile featuring a trans, non-binary character, or nonfiction about trans, non-binary stuff. So I have 2 piles. I have pile of books I've read and pile of books on my TBR. And let's see. This one is a book by a non-binary author. This is Dear Centhurin, Akweke Emezi's book, A Black Spirit Memoir. I read Freshwater, which is coming up in a different prompt, and The Death of Vivek Oji. And I found this one, I think, at a library sale for $1. So I picked this one up. And like I said, the subtitle is A Black Spirit Memoir. I'm just going to read a quick part of the blurb. A full-throated and provocative memoir and letters from the New York Times bestselling author, a dazzling literary talent whose works cut to the quick of the spiritual self, which I agree with. And it's kind of, each of the chapters is kind of epistolary. It's got a dear whoever, and it's got a name on there. So this, I think, is going to be quite interesting, based on their previous 2 novels that I read, and I'm really looking forward. I am looking forward to that, but I'm looking forward to all of the books that I have unread here. The next one is nonfiction, and this is Jan Morris's Conundrum. Jan Morris passed away in November of 2020, and she was a travel writer. And this is a nonfiction memoir that was first published in 1974 and updated in 2002. On the front cover of the book, it says, "I was 3 or perhaps 4 years old when I realized that I had been born into the wrong body and should really be a girl. I remember the moment well, and it is the earliest of my life." And Jan Moore was a person who very early was giving very early attention to being transgender and transitioning. The great travel writer Jan Morris was born James Morris. James Morris distinguished himself in the British military, became a successful and physically daring reporter, climbed mountains, crossed deserts, and established a reputation as a historian of the British Empire. He was happily married with several children and appeared to be kind of a man's man. But of course, appearances can be deceiving, and this is a memoir of her transition. And this one is the subtweet by Vivek Shreya, and Vivek Shreya is a trans author. This one has been around quite a bit. And let's see, indie musician Neela Devaki has built a career writing the songs she wants to hear, but nobody else is singing. When one of Neela's songs is covered by internet artist Rukmini and becomes a viral sensation, the two musicians meet and a transformative friendship begins. But before long, the systemic pressures that pit women against one another begin to bear down on Neela and Rukmini, stirring up self-doubt and jealousy. With a single tweet, their friendship implodes, a career is destroyed, and the two women find themselves at the center of an internet firestorm. Now, what is ironic is I am not on Twitter, nor do I ever have any plans to get on Twitter, especially now after Elon Musk is trying to buy it. But that one sounded fascinating. And I also want to read her book, I'm Afraid of Men. I know that one was out there as well. And this is Little Fish by Casey Plett. And this one is a debut novel by the author of the short story collection, A Safe Girl to Love. And this one, it's the dead of winter in Winnipeg, and Wendy Reiner, a 30-year-old trans woman, feels like her life is frozen in place. When her Oma passes away, Wendy receives an unexpected phone call from a distant family friend with a startling secret. Wendy's Opa, a devout Mennonite farmer, might have been transgender himself. Very interesting. And let's see, Casey Plett is a Canadian author. So that one looked really good. So those are on my TBR piles. Now, prompt number 3 is recommend a favorite book, show, or movie featuring a trans non-binary character. One of my favorite books that I've read in years is Amateur. This is by Thomas Page McBee, A Reckoning with Gender, Identity, and Masculinity. Thomas Page McBee is a trans guy, and I've got cat and dust all over me, and he was the first transgender man to ever box in Madison Square Garden. He did what is that called? Not a professional boxing match, but an exhibition match. And this book is so great because he talks about transitioning from female to male and what he learned about toxic masculinity, what he also learned about his own family legacy with his father and sister. He has a brother and a sister, I believe. And I thought this is really brilliant commentary on toxic masculinity, and it was a fascinating book. I highly recommend that one. This one is, now the next two are middle grade, and because this is Stand With Trans Kids, I thought I'd talk about these two because they're meant for children. This is George by Alex Gino, and this one has since been renamed Melissa. This book originally came out under the title of George in 2015, and Alex Gino is a non-binary author. This is the story of Melissa, who was born George in a little boy's body, and the only thing she wants to do is to play Charlotte in the school production of Charlotte's Web. And it's such a heartwarming story because it discusses her internal life, her feelings about herself, but also the reactions that she's getting from teachers and school administrators who continue to remind her that Charlotte is a girl's character. And we get to the end of the book and we find out how that all played out. And it's a beautiful book. It is excellent for children to read. It's a great story. I love this book. And it's published by Scholastic. And this is also one of the most banned books in school systems for the last 7 years, because it was published in 2015. It's been banned since it came out on the scene. The next one is Hurricane Child by Kaysen Callender, who is a non-binary author. And this one is about Caroline Murphy, who is a hurricane child. She was born during a hurricane, and being born during a hurricane is unlucky. She's 12 and she's had her share of bad luck lately. But when a new student arrives, she believes her luck is turning around. Kalinda soon becomes Caroline's first friend, and together the two girls must brave their own feelings of friendship and love while they seek to discover why Caroline's mother has disappeared or risk losing her forever. And I actually read this on my Kindle. My daughter had this copy, and look at how pretty it is. Look at how pretty that book is. So and the other author I want to mention is Danez Smith, who is a non-binary author who wrote a poetry collection. I read two of their poetry collections, Homie and Don't Call Us Dead, which I absolutely adored. And if you go on YouTube, they have a presentation of their spoken word poem, Dear White America. It is just incredible. It's so powerful. And to listen to their voice as they're reciting it in their own words and inflection, it's brilliant. And I will tag that video down below. What else? I think that's it. I'm on to prompt number 4. Everyone has their own journey and no one demographic is a monolith. Recommend a book with a journey, however you define that. One book I just finished is Lolly Willows by Sylvia Townsend Warner, and this is there's a small physical journey in there, but this is mostly an emotional journey of Laura Willows, who's nicknamed Lolly by her family, and she is a young woman at the turn of the 20th century. Her father has just died, and she is kind of being removed from the family estate in the English countryside to her brother and sister-in-law's home in London. And she is she is a fixture, part of the furniture in their home, in their family, taken for granted, kind of an aunt in residence, free babysitting, that type of thing. And she kind of submits to that lifestyle. She doesn't really push for her own life, for what she chooses, what she wants, until later on in the book. And so we get to see the journey of her breaking out of the constraints of an early 20th century female existence, and it's an excellent book. I absolutely loved it. The other one is Ursula K. Le Guin's very first novel, Rocannon's World, and I read it in my Library of America volume, the Hainish Novels and Stories, Volume 1. And it's her first published book in 1960-something. I had that all prepped up on my laptop, and I don't know what it is now. But this is literally about a journey through backwards and forwards in time. And it's science fiction. I loved the book, and it's for a first novel. It's a novella actually, but for the first novella, I loved it. And it's a journey to try to save different civilizations and pull planets and different societies together to work together. Kind of like in a United Nations kind of a format. I said that about the second novel, Planet of Exile, but it's definitely a journey through time and space. And I loved the writing, I loved the story, I loved everything about it. What else? Okay, those are the two books I have for prompt 4. Prompt 5. None of us knows everything, even about our own identities, especially since we're not a monolith and each have our own journey. What is a book that taught you something either about yourself or the world around you? One of the books that did that most powerfully was Ace by Angela Chen. And this is a nonfiction book about asexuality and the entire spectrum of what that means. I just was completely uneducated about that until I read this book. And I read it because it was all over BookTube and it was fascinating to me. And I think I read it for Pride Month last year. I don't remember. I think I did. I learned stuff about myself, about the spectrum of asexuality and what that all means. And I thought this is one of the best educational experiences I've had in a long time, just picking up a book and reading it. So really an excellent book. It's quite short, easy to read, and I would highly recommend that one. Prompt number 6, when things are hard in the world or in our lives, sometimes there are things we can do to help center and refocus ourselves, to bring joy, to keep us going, to keep living, resisting, being our authentically amazing selves. What are things you do to center yourself or find joy? Reading, obviously, and different books cause different emotional responses. So I try to pick really well. If I'm reading a classic, that kind of feeds my soul. If I want to escape and have fun, I read a thriller or a romance or science fiction or fantasy. Different books do different things. I love to watch classics made into movies. Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility. I am looking for a much better rendition of Middlemarch. Daniel Deronda, there's a limited miniseries on that one. Those types of things. I love classic movies. I love to just go outside, and especially on nice days, and take day trips, hang out with my people, and those things all bring me joy and make me feel reconnected. Number 7, what is your walk-on music or your feel at home in your body music? I actually had an experience where I was speaking at a conference and had walk-on music, and I am a child of the 80s, and it was Tone Loc's Wild Thing, and I had a blast. Number 8, finding mentors, people of wisdom, or heroes can be another way to help us navigate life. Who are some of your mentors, and can you share something they taught you or inspired you to learn more about? I am honestly not a person who looks to mentors, and I've never really done that, and I could not identify any person that I would name for that prompt, so I don't have any. Number 9, who are some out trans, non-binary booktubers, Instagrammers, authors, actors, etc. who'd you like to shout out? Very obviously, Leo Bancroft, who originated the tag. Kevy at Say Kevy, who I love, and I think we're talking about doing a buddy read of a book that I just acquired, Mary Roberts Reinhardt, because Kevy is a huge mystery and thriller fan, so I think we're going to try to get together to do that. But we've talked back and forth in the comments and Instagram and BookTube and all that, and just absolutely love her. I have to say that I have a very limited repertoire of openly trans or openly non-binary friends or booktubers or Instagrammers or people I follow. AJ Dunn is another one. AJ is a non-binary booktuber, and we have a buddy read scheduled as well for June, and I cannot wait. We tried to read Lolita together, but that did not go very well for me. But as I was beginning to say, I was looking for more people out there, more channels that I could gel with their taste in reading and my taste in reading, and to find somebody who has different tastes in reading that I would be interested with. And the last prompt, number 10, what are some organizations you'd like to shout out for supporting trans kids or trans folks? I have 4. Now, these are all local to me. The first one is Seacoast Outright, and that they serve the Seacoast, New Hampshire, primarily Portsmouth, New Hampshire is where they're based out of. And they are an organization for serving, supporting, and advocating for LGBTQIA+ youth in the Seacoast and basically the surrounding areas. They offer a ton of stuff. They do Portsmouth Pride every year, which is coming up in June, and they do support groups and healthcare, and they've got all kinds of things going on. I'm going to provide all the links for all these organizations down below. The next one is rural outright, very similar to seacoast outright, but it's in the rural parts of New Hampshire, which I think is almost even more important because of the isolation in some parts of the state, farmland, rural communities, no cities nearby. So I think these types of organizations in that atmosphere is very important. There is another one. Let me find it. This was one of my favorites. This is GLSEN, New Hampshire. The acronym is GLSEN, and it's pronounced GLSEN. And this stands for Gay, Lesbian, and Straight Education Network. This is an organization that advocates for equality and safety in education for our kids and our youth. And they support training, education of educators, organizations, and they advocate and write public policy. I just think it's a great organization and a great group. And the other one is the Equality Health Center. I believe they are out of Concord, New Hampshire. And it's just exactly what it sounds like. They are a group that advocates and promotes and supports equality in healthcare for any person, any human. And these are all great nonprofit organizations in New Hampshire. So that is it for me. I hope you got some really good ideas or books that sound good out of my answers in my tag. And let me know in the comments below what you think. And thank you, Leo, for creating the tag. Thank you, Brian, for tagging me. And like I said before, I'm going to go back and look to see if somebody has not done it, and I will add you in the description box down below. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye.